Okay, so it's very annoying, but it has to happen. You need to twist some yarn. And for a little bit this is fine, but what if you need to do like loads and loads of balls of yarn? Introducing the drill twister. Okay, so this is made especially for the Daruma home twister that twists yarn at home. It twists home. I don't know. You can use it to make cakes of yarn or to twist your own yarn. In this case, I'm going to set it up for yarn twisting. Step 1. Connect the apparatus to the table. Make sure that the screw is reasonably tight. Now for step 2. Now we connect the yarn guide into the body of the apparatus. Or the wool winder. Now for the last step, connecting the rotary disc. For some weird reason this has already been connected in the manual, but this is one of the things that I always do wrong. It just sometimes doesn't really mesh, and then you have to push it in again and see if it actually meshes at the right point. I do this with the bobbin on. You can do it without the bobbin if you want to. That's like in the manual. So, time to thread the yarn. What you want to do is first, from out to in, get the yarn through the bigger yarn guide into the rotary yarn guide. And then finally onto the bobbin. I always like to have a little knot at the end so I can pull it tight, and that makes it a little bit easier. Always start winding by hand. If you immediately start using the drill, then it might just shoot out of there, and it's way easier to have like a neat start anyway by hand. Okay, so you might ask yourself, why is this only available for the Daruma home twister and not other yarn winders? Well, there actually is a quite good reason for that. And it all has to do with the length of the shaft that protrudes. You really need enough meat there to connect it to a drill. Otherwise, you might twist it in an angle and it would break off very easily. It is 3D printed plastic after all. You might try to chop it off and make it a little bit shorter, so it might work with this brother. But for the Passab one, I don't really see how that would work. Okay, so on to the 3D printing part of it. What are the settings that I use? Usually, I print with like an infill density of 20. You need at least 40 for this. It needs to be strong. You also need to use support. I try to do it without it, but it's just not strong enough. It also has a little bit to do with the aesthetic choices that I made, which probably could have been easier to print, but well, it is what it is. I also use brim because I'm kind of paranoid. Things don't always stick as well on the heated bend as I want them to. So you check the layers if it's really supported. Otherwise, again, you'll have problems and you're ready to save it and send it to your 3D printer. Just showing off the 3D printer that I have. It isn't much, but it's mine. And the obligatory time lapse in the upper right corner. Because there's never anything wrong with a time lapse. Cleaning up is kind of easy to do, especially the drill parts, but the wing part, as I call it, which I made that way purely for aesthetic reasons, is a little bit more difficult to remove. I usually use a flathead screwdriver, but as you can see me struggling with other kinds of tools, I do get it off. Okay, so there's one small problem. I printed this one piece, but it usually always breaks at the same piece. It's just too thin a layer to make it sturdy. Probably also because I use PLA. I think printing it in something like PET would be much better because it's a stronger plastic, but well, it is what I have. You can also see that if you connect it just wrong in the drill, you might think you got it, but it's usually best to just see if you can get it in perfectly, because it really counts on the drill jaws connecting them together, and that gives it its strength. So keep your drill at the right angle, because you might think this should be 90 degrees to the table, but it's usually just a little bit off. And the more the angle is off, the more stress you put on the apparatus. And what I like to do is to put the drill on a chair that's nearby, put some other stuff on top of it, and on top of a pillow. That's what I've done here. Then I use a wood clamp to basically adjust the speed. One of the advantages of using a wood clamp is that you can set it slow, or if you want to, you can push it a few more times and it will go faster. A little bit of a public service announcement. You might want to go faster, but I don't recommend it, because if you go too fast, you can break stuff, and it's kind of sharp, the plastic. Be careful. Also, instead of my thumb to keep tension on the yarn, I use a small vise here that I have on my workbench. I added a little bit of leather to it to keep it in, well, about the same tension. You can also use something like a clothing pin. Okay, so you're still here and you haven't started making your own drill twister. There can only be one reason for that. And you're wondering, why would I want to twist my yarn? If you twist your yarn, it will look slightly different, well, a lot different from just using 3 yarns at once in your knitting machine. I'll show you in my pasap in a second, and I hope you can see that the results speak for themselves. If you'd like to see more of my projects on 3D printing, knitting, electronics, and mostly pasap, sometimes some art, sometimes some hacking, please subscribe, like, and ask your questions in the comments down there. You probably know where it is. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you again. Bye!